Hey guys, I'm Brittany. I'm with EVERFI. For those of you who are with us this morning, we got a little quick intro into what we do with Hunter up here with Casey and got to talk a little bit about our programs in education. I'm very lucky that I get to work with some of our big sport partners like the NFL and got to be a part of the Character Playbook campaign, which is why I'm very excited to hear from such a great group of creatives from the NFL and get to talk specifically about the work going on around draft. And I know it's been probably a year or more in the making, so to see it come to life and get to talk about it is really, really special. So do we want to get started and you guys maybe just give a quick intro into what you do with the league, and then we can jump into some of the work and the questions. Cam, do you want to get us started?
Sure. Yes, my name is Cameron Etheredge. I'm art director at the NFL and based out of our New York office. I'm the lead art director on this year's draft. And yeah, we spend a lot of our time working on sort of the tentpole events, so Super Bowl, Pro Bowl, kickoff, and draft, and kind of work on developing the creative look for each of those events.
Okay. I'm Kylie Callura. I work on the social and influencer marketing team. I focus on original social content and production, so that means anything from original content with players, legends, influencers, celebrities, as well as managing our on-site activations at all of our tentpole events, including Super Bowl, Pro Bowl, and the NFL Draft.
Awesome. Hi, my name is Andraos. I'm the creative director at the NFL. I lead integrated campaigns and also oversee our social creative team, social graphics, social editing.
Just a little bit to oversee. Awesome. Well, let's get started with why we're all here. The NFL Draft. I think the Lions kind of gave you all a nod earlier today in that the league does such a wonderful job of really doing their research, doing their work to understand the city and understand who they're representing when they come in and do a tentpole event. So, Cam, I'd love to start with you and just kind of hear from your perspective, what is the approach when approaching a tentpole event and learning the city, learning the culture, and kind of tell us a little bit more about that process.
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually have a presentation to share. And I'll just kind of start by saying that when we approach any of our events, we always try to show up in these cities and really get to understand the people, get to understand the culture. And that involves, doing your own research, but also communicating with locals. We spoke with the Detroit host committee to really understand their kind of vision of what Detroit is and what the future of Detroit is. And I think that's important if you want to kind of show up in a space in an authentic way. And I think there's still room for improvement in that regard, but we do our best to try to understand as much as possible. I can speak specifically to our presence here in Detroit, and we first tried to identify what is Detroit. And it's impossible to sum up a city in a few words. But in speaking with the Detroit host committee, we did kind of find a few things that I think kind of represent the city well. We define Detroit as being innovative. If you think about the history of the city and the kind of pioneering of the automotive industry. No one else can really claim that across America. And I think that what the foundation that this city laid for that is very much how a lot of the rest of the world kind of follows today. We saw Detroit as something that's reinventing itself. It's obviously it has a very storied history, but the future of the city is looking strong, and I think there's a lot of excitement for what is to come. Vibrational energy was something that came up in our conversation with the host community. I think you really have to be here to understand. There really is a sort of energy throughout the streets of the city that it's palpable. And innovation is also part of the kind of music history here. So with the Motown kind of sound, as well as the creation of techno, that was also something that we kind of discovered in our research. And then finally, Detroit being passionate. So, this sports scene here is phenomenal. I was really pulling for the Lions last season. Sorry it didn't work out that way. I think that was the Super Bowl that America wanted. Yeah, and so each of these things kind of brought us to the theme for this year's draft.
That's awesome. I know that we've spent a lot of time talking about the city of Detroit, and I think you guys were spot on in your research into the things that you just were able to share with us. So, love the inspiration and the research. I know one of the other things you guys were looking forward to, and something that you can share with us a little bit about, is working directly with an artist to create work that represents all 32 clubs, actually. And I think that work is out and about around the city, and so we'd love to hear a little bit more about that collaboration.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I'm looking at some of the visual touch points around the city. We were inspired very much by the Spirit of the Detroit statue. Kind of stands as a symbol of kind of hope and prosperity for the city, as well as human connection, and being inspired by that, as well as sort of the tile work of the architecture around here. We found an illustrator who had this sort of modern approach to this Art Deco style. It looks like his photo's not showing up. But yeah, in finding his art, we created sort of a collection of illustrations that are kind of depicting this sort of heroic moment for the prospects as they're being drafted. Also created a series of 32 unique illustrations for all of the teams to really kind of play with this sort of personality and spirit of each team. And yeah, I think that it turned out great. You can see this all throughout the streets of Detroit, or on the footprint of draft right now. So take a look when you get a chance.
Yeah, and I love this work too, because we've talked so much about the Detroit market and the Lions, but this is a league-wide approach, and it's a league-wide event. And so to be able to take that element of a local artist and put that work across all the clubs is really impactful. So I know you have a few more pieces to share with us of just what might be out. How has it been seeing all of this come to life? I heard that you're just at a walkthrough this morning and got to see some things coming together. You spend so much time designing this work. I'm sure it's a really, really rewarding feeling to see it up.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. So we've been working on this for like about a year. So it's really the culmination of a lot of hard work. I have some of my fellow teammates in the audience right now, and yeah, it's pretty special to see it all come to life. I'm proud that we were able to kind of take a direction that was unexpected. I think a lot of people expected us to show up here and do something with cars or Motown. So to be able to do something, I think very different and special is pretty cool. And I think I have a couple of examples of how this is starting to come to life around the city. So we have some hits on buildings. There's some plenty of fence. There's some team elements on the NFL shop. We have stuff on the queue line, the people mover, all kind of being inspired by this idea of sort of like optimism and radiant energy. Yeah, it's pretty cool. You can even see it on the stage itself, in the way that the construction of the stage is coming to life, as well as the graphics. Pretty cool.
Really cool, and I think a lot of times when we think of creative, we're thinking about one element that's on that, and you guys are thinking about the actual structure, what shapes are being built, all of that. So can you take us a little bit more into just the overall strategy and thinking about this very holistically, and how there's so much to build and create, and just maybe some pieces that we probably aren't even thinking about that you guys have a hand in building?
Yeah, I mean, so the visuals that you see there are all kind of part of a collection of elements that we create to kind of give to all of our partners. And so the illustrations, the patterns, just custom typography in there. All these different visual elements are just kind of a piece of making sure that we have a very cohesive look and feel. And yeah, if you get the chance to take a closer look, you'll even see that some of the patterning and things of that nature are really trying to highlight those key things that make each team special. This is the one event that we have each year where all 32 teams and their fans kind of come together to celebrate this moment and kind of have this sense of optimism for the season to come. So we really just try to highlight that as much as possible.
That's awesome. I love it. The sense of optimism and the energy across all teams is probably pretty rare, but it's a really special moment. So I think we can continue and maybe transition to you all, Paul, and talking about optimism and excitement. And I know that you have a very special spot to show us, a tune-in promo, and it's high energy and it's exciting and it's really getting us ready for what's to come tomorrow. So let us know kind of the strategy behind it, set it up for us, what was the thought process, and then we'll get a moment to watch it.
Yeah, so obviously the NFL draft it's a time for us to introduce the next generation of stars to our NFL fans. And Detroit really provided a special opportunity for us this year, really because of its rich culture, as Dave alluded to. We rolled out a teaser spot during the NFL Combine at the end of February, and that was just to kind of, introduce some of the big name stars for this year's draft. Showing highlights, showing some Detroit scenics, and really starting to bring awareness to draft tune-in. So when it's going to be, how you can watch it, where it is, that sort of thing. And then as we got closer to draft, we did a larger spot, a spot that we wanted to kind of capture our fans' attention, and what better way to do that than to bring in some of the NFL's bright young stars. So this year we were really fortunate to get Puka Nacua, Brock Purdy, and Aiden Hutchinson to participate in our tune-in promo. And what's really great about the mix of those players is they all just had their draft moment, whether a year or two ago. So it's fresh for them. They understand what this draft class is going to be going through this weekend. The other thing is they all had very different draft experiences. Puka was a day 3 pick last year. Came out of nowhere, had a record-breaking season, and really became a fan favorite across the NFL. So we're really fortunate to have him participate. Brock Purdy, probably the most famous and most successful Mr. Irrelevant, which is the nickname we give to the last player selected in the draft. And obviously his draft experience was much different than the other two. And then Aiden Hutchinson. Aiden was a top pick. He was able to walk the draft stage a couple years ago. So very different than Puka and Brock. What was great about Aiden, obviously, is he represents our host city this year. He has been one of the faces to the Lions revival the last couple years, so he was the perfect anchor for this spot. So we had these 3 players, talk directly to camera. We brought some Detroit flavor in. You'll see a vinyl record. You'll see some Detroit scenics. We also utilized a contemporary cover of "Get Ready," which is a Motown classic by The Temptations. So really happy with the way this spot turned out. Additionally, we had 3 separate shoots, one for each player, and obviously captured content for the promo, but we also were able to capture some social content to extend the campaign. So, had the players talking about their draft experiences, giving advice to this year's draft class, and we even had Aiden give us his top 5 things to do in Detroit during draft. So, some really fun stuff. We're going to play the promo for you guys right now. Hopefully you've seen it. It's been rolled out the last couple of weeks, but if you haven't, here you go. Nope.
Let us do it. We'll do it up here.
Okay, perfect.
The NFL Draft,
You've been working your entire life for this moment.
Marvin Harrison Jr. is magical.
Forget all the noise. Your game speaks for itself.
No matter where you're headed, the journey to greatness
starts here.
starts here. Starts here.
Time to get this show started, Detroit.
Really great work, and I appreciate you giving us such context. I think similarly to the work that Cam and his team does, it's interesting you don't even think about the music and all the different elements that go into producing a spot like that, and how thoughtful and intentional you guys were in representing Detroit is just really special. And I know I want to talk about social and some of those extensions that you're referencing as well, but as you guys can see, you guys also collaborated with ESPN on a pretty fun, lighthearted spot as well, and would love to kind of hear a little bit more about how this came to be and how well received it's been.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, again, tapping into Detroit, some of the cultural icons that come from Detroit. We did a great collaboration with our broadcast partner ESPN, where we got Eminem and Commissioner Goodell together in a room. Produced a series of spots to drive tune-in again for the draft, a little bit different than the tune-in spot you just saw. This one much more fun, much more lighthearted. So a series of spots that we've rolled out the last couple of weeks. It's been very well received. The buzz has been great. Hats off to ESPN. We're really excited about this series, and it's going to culminate in a longer piece from this shoot tomorrow night to kick off the draft, so keep an eye out. It should be on ESPN and NFL Network. But it's a series of spots. We're going to show one of the spots right now.
I'm Eminem. This is Roger Goodell, and we are so fired up this year for the NFL Draft.
Live from the D.
You can just say Detroit.
That's what I said.
And we said the D.
Detroit.
Am I being punked?
D.
I'm Eminem.
No, that's a very funny spot, and honestly, before I had seen it, we were driving through downtown yesterday, and I saw Draft Day in the D. I was like, that's an interesting tagline, but now seeing the spot, it all comes together. So, really, really fun and great work.
Yeah, and the writing, I think, really made that spot. Again, hats off to ESPN. They were a great partner on this.
Yeah, when creatives are great at writing scripts, it really pays off. So, let's talk about social a little bit. This is a very holistic campaign and programming. You guys are thinking about digital strategy, not just as linear, but across your entire portfolio. So we'd love to just hear a little bit more about the strategy with draft coverage. It's a lot of teams to cover, a lot of players to cover. How do you really prioritize and figure out what works?
Yeah, so we produce a bunch of social assets. We've been producing social assets for the last couple months leading up to this draft. So, finding a way to communicate and drive tune-in across social. We had a series of social graphics that we use. We have, highlight videos for some of the top prospects. And then as we get closer to the draft, storytelling is a huge part for us year-round, but especially during draft. We're very big on helmets off storytelling. Obviously, we want to show these guys skill on the field, but we find it just as important to really get to know these guys off the field and start forming that connection with fans. Just talking about their football journey, how they got there, who helped them along the way, any challenges that they may have faced, anything interesting around them. Again, trying to establish that relationship with fans. And what we'd like to do around draft is give these guys exposure and make that connection, again, to the fans. I'll repeat myself too many times, but we want the fans to kind of get to know these guys so that when they are drafted, they'll remember, oh, I saw a story on this player, they build this sort of emotional bond with them. I think our friends at NFL Films does a great job with Hard Knocks, where they tell the story and develop the story of these fringe players to the point where you're really rooting for these guys to make the team and you never heard of them a week ago. So that's what we try and do on our side as well. We're doing storytelling obviously leading up to the draft. We'll continue to do it post-draft. If you go to our social channels tomorrow night, you'll see some of sort of the helmet off approach again, a lot with our graphics. So, we have an incredible illustration team in-house. So we identified 22 players, illustrated them helmets off, as you can see by the Caleb Williams example there. Did 90 plus variations, putting these 22 guys in all different jerseys so that we are ready to roll post-selection. We'll also do jersey swaps so that we can see these players in their jerseys for the first time. We'll do storylines, support storylines. So tomorrow night, if 4 quarterbacks go in the first 4 picks, that's going to be the first time in NFL history. So we'll be ready to provide a graphic or some sort of video asset to support that story. If multiple players from the same school are drafted in the first round, we'll create something to support that. And obviously we don't know all the stories that are going to fall out of the draft, so we're going to be on standby, ready to go. But the team has done an incredible job the last few months, putting us in the best position possible heading into this weekend.
Absolutely. I love that you spent time talking about the helmets off strategy. I know that's something Tim, CMO, spent a lot of time educating us on and our campaign and how successful that's been for the league. And really, I know you mentioned that you had said fans a lot, but that's what's most important sometimes, is getting the fans to know these players and support them. And what better way than when their helmets are off and you get to know them as people and who they are off the field. And really special that comes to life in your storylines pre, post, and during. So with that, Kylie, I know that you are our social content producer and you spend so much time creating content. This is probably a really big week to try and figure out how do you cover it all. How do you find what's most important? What stories are you producing? And so let us know a little bit into the strategy, the peek behind the curtain on how you go about doing so.
Definitely. So as Paul mentioned, all of the creative that we just saw lives across all of our league channels, but really want to highlight the work that we do across our ecosystem. That includes colleges, clubs, partners, even the player accounts. That's all part of our NFL ecosystem that we are creating for in-house. So with our clubs, we partner with all 32. Cam mentioned it, this is the one time of year where all 32 clubs are excited and optimistic and they want to have fun with us. So we really capitalize on that opportunity, whether it's something as simple as an Instagram collab or working with them on site to create content with their newly drafted player. Our colleges are another big partner of ours. We have on site this week 21 college correspondents creating content from 10 different colleges. That represents all 13 of the prospects that are here this week. So we're thrilled. That's the most we've ever had. That just continues to extend our draft coverage from league and club channels through to college, because what we want to do is bring our college fan bases into the NFL family as well if they aren't already. And then of course our wonderful partners. We've been working with YouTube over the last year on a really extensive creator program that was really heavily involved throughout the regular season, but we also bring them to tentpole activations. These are top creators from YouTube that really get all access to everything. We have them on the red carpet, we have them in the post-selection media tour space, getting the opportunity to create content with prospects, and we'll touch on that more in a little bit, but that just continues to let us reach newer audiences. Great partners at GQ Sports, they help us highlight our player fashion. And then, as Paul had mentioned, our great partners at ESPN. The Pat McAfee Show is simulcast on social tomorrow night as a second screen experience that really highlights the fan experience. So really thrilled to activate across this entire ecosystem to just further our draft coverage and at the end of the day really introduce these draftees to our fans far and wide.
That's awesome. Yeah, the ecosystem is huge and it's growing, it sounds like, which is really, really special and exciting. You hit on this with some of your partners, but there's a lot of activations going on that are not selections. There's the red carpet and the post-selection media tour. How important are these additional activations to the draft? Is this really where we get to know more about the players off the field and really get to see them? We're all here to see who selects them, but how important are these to your storytelling and your strategy?
Absolutely. So we see across social a lot. Our fans are more interested in the content that is either emotional or humorous. It's less so about where they were selected, but who these people are, and Paul had mentioned it, who they are off the field. So we, on the social side, our on-site activations really tap into that, and it really is less so their football journey story, who they are off the field, but what are they interested in outside of football. So something we've seen just continue to grow year over year on our accounts is interest in player fashion. So we have a large presence on the draft red carpet, which you will see pre-draft tomorrow. We have an activation that is led from the social side, and we'll get into more partners here, but in partnership with Third Man Records, to the point that Cam was making about really leaning into the culture of Detroit, we're working with Jack White's Third Man Records to produce this really vibey, Motown, music-themed content set, where our prospects will come, they'll take their fashion photos, but then they'll also do an interview with a TikTok creator, Sean Rizwan, who will give us a little bit of insight into their music interests. I think we always see with players in these environments, they're a little bit thrilled to not be asked about a football question. So we really use that as an opportunity to lean into the things that they like and that they're passionate about, and showing them that as the league, we're here to amplify the things that they like outside of football. So look out for that tomorrow. We also have GQ Sports on the red carpet. YouTube will have a presence there, as well as our partners at Overtime, and all of that content coming out of the carpet. Of course, we'll be asking them how they're feeling. They'll be with their families. We want to see what the vibe is. Just, of course, it's the best day of their life. But really want to use that as an opportunity to get to know who they are and what they care about, specifically as it relates to fashion. On the innovation front, this is a space that we continue to grow in. One activation that we are bringing back for the third year is called The Man in the Mirror. If you've seen this on the telecast or on social the last two drafts, this is the opportunity where the players, they get to put their hat on for the first time. We have a mirror, or we have a camera in the mirror. So we thought what a great moment to capture as they're taking that moment to themselves. That's like their final moment as not an NFL player before they go out into the madness of hugging Commissioner Goodell, holding up their jersey, and really getting welcomed into their new fan base. So we continue to up-level experiences like that. This is something that's always happened at the draft. They always pick up their hat, they always walk out on stage. But how can we give fans an inside look at what that feels like and what it looks like? I think some of the videos that we have of the players, if you see them kind of take a deep breath and shake their shoulders out a little bit, it's kind of endearing because they're a little nervous. And so it gives fans a little bit of a perspective of, okay, this is a regular person. We just saw their life totally change. It's relatable to our fans. And then with our partners at Snapchat, we're always continuing to up-level how we activate on that platform, knowing that it is so youth-focused. So we're excited this year to launch an augmented reality lens that actually features the commissioner and gives you a fake call, a video call, as if you were just drafted to the NFL. So we continue to storytell in those ways as well. And then finally, I think our biggest one here is the post-selection media tour. This is really our first touch point with these players as part of the NFL, and gives us an opportunity to not only celebrate them, but to storytell around them. A staple of what we've been doing in that post-selection media tour for several years is called Draft Letters, and it is by far the most heartwarming content I think you'll ever see come out of the NFL, and if you don't cry watching them, watch it again, and I bet you will. That is where we film with prospects' families in the week leading up to draft, give them a moment to really reflect on the career that their son or their brother or their nephew or their player has had, and really write them a letter and give them a message of not only encouragement but congratulations and reflection on their journey. And then because we are so kind, we show it to them backstage and make them cry right after they were drafted. But it's always a nice moment to give them that time with their families. And then our second set that we do with players, it's still in that same tone of congratulations, but maybe a little bit more hyped up, is called the Your Call booth. This allows the prospects to go backstage and they're surprised with a video call from their college teammates. And that really allows them to celebrate with the people who can't be with them here on site, but they are people who are a huge part of their journey. So we love to see that storytelling come out as well, and that's just another way we can engage our colleges. And then finally, our third set this year, which is new, is called Welcome to the Team. This is where we are really partnering with all 32 clubs, because we don't know where the on-site prospects are going to be drafted, to congratulate our draftees with a message from a legend from their new club, really bridging the gap between past, present, and future with them, that we're really thrilled to roll out this year.
Wow, that was a lot of work. I'm sure that you guys are pretty busy this week to accomplish all of that, and I think you mentioned the number of graphics that you have to prepare. You have to be ready for anything. So really, really special, and thank you so much for sharing all of those really unique and awesome touch points to get us a better visual into this experience. I do want to close this out. We'll have a couple minutes for questions, but you hit on influencers, you hit on strategy, you talked about working with GQ and YouTube. That is something that you guys are really leaning into. What a special moment, because you can work with people from all over that connect with all different clubs. Tell us a little bit about that and what's in store for this week when it comes to influencers and creators.
Yeah, so it's great that we can activate with our clubs and our colleges and our partners, but something that we've really been ramping up over the last several seasons is our partnerships with influencers and content creators, because that's helping us reach an audience we don't already have, and we do see that these people are interested in football. We just need to find what it is about football that they care about, and the best way for us to do that is with our influencers. I mentioned it with our red carpet set, but our partnership with Third Man Records really helps us tap into that more like indie music audience that we don't have. And find a reason for them to care about what we're doing at the draft. So we're partnering with them on our red carpet set, but we're also partnering with JJ McCarthy, national champion, right after this, actually, to give him a tour of the Third Man Records, the pressing plant that they have, and having him go through his own custom vinyl creation process and doing storytelling just around his draft experience there. That will help us, bridge the gap between music fans that want to get interested in NFL, but also showcasing JJ in a different environment that we don't normally see him. We are all very familiar with him on the football fields, but let's put him in another environment where he can talk about music and give us a little bit of a peek behind the curtain. So thrilled to be partnering with Third Man and Jack White on that one. And then we also have a couple other player-creator collabs going on this week. All of them today, actually. The one that we have on the bottom, James SEO, he's one of those creators I'm sure you've seen on TikTok or Reels. The creators that do surprise giveaways. It's one of those like, do you want $1? Do you want what's in the mystery box? We are pairing him with Detroit Lions on Ross St. Brown. That's a partnership that we've been working on for a bit here, trying to pair our players with creators, so that not only is it benefiting us from the league perspective of working with creators, but we're also getting our players in the content creation mind, knowing that they all have social media. We want them to be creating and getting into these spaces as well. So they'll partner today, and then we have a live stream this afternoon with iShowSpeed, who is a popular streamer, as well as Sketch. If you guys are familiar with What's Up Brother, that's that guy. So we're thrilled to continue to use and partner with these creators and streamers to reach their audiences in a fun and unique way. A lot of them oftentimes too have a unique perspective on how to highlight the draft. We'll have an idea in our head when we work with these influencers and creators of how we would like to incorporate them, but oftentimes they are looking at the draft through a lens that we didn't even think of before, and some really cool content comes out of it in that regard. And then of course, our clubs really lean into their creator and influencer talent as well through guest picks on days 2 and 3 of the draft. So look out for those. We're excited for a few surprises this year.
Really exciting. I can't wait to tune in and see who the guest picks are. Well, we have, I believe, about 5 minutes or so. So if anyone has any questions, we can pass those along to the team. Yeah.
Hi, Reed Harris from Kenview. Very insightful session. Thank you. Cam, especially like the behind the scenes introduction to the thought process that went into the art design and tied to culture. My question was around influencers, so maybe it's Paul or Kylie. Emily touched on earlier in the Lions SVP of Marketing talked about bringing the characters of players to the forefront, and Paul, you talked about the importance of storytelling. One thing I've seen on social media over the past year is more and more focus and feature of players' lives and kind of the things that they're up to behind the scenes, off the field, and more into their personal lives. Can you talk a little bit about that? Is that organic content that's just being developed? Are you involved in helping shape that? What's kind of happening in that space and what's to come, maybe?
Happy to take this one. This is something I think that started organic. We saw several of these wives of players creating on their own and just showcasing naturally what their game day experience was like. And we saw that as an opportunity to help continue to educate around the game, because who is more knowledgeable than the wives and families of these players to show us what it's actually like to be in the NFL. The players can tell us all day what that's like, but the families have a really unique perspective that I think is really relatable to a lot of our audience, specifically our female audience. So we have had several partnerships with a lot of our notable wives. Kristen Juszczyk to be one of note. She's a fashion designer, entrepreneur, content creator who is just incredible and has been amazing in helping the growth of our female audience, just in terms of explaining how everything works and doing it in a really fun, organic way that makes sense for her and her platforms. So we do partner with several of them. We get outreach either from them saying, how can you support? And that can be anything from helping them ideate around what would be a good piece of content for them, to scripting out like how a playoff scenario is going to work and saying like, hey, on top of your get ready with me, could you also explain how wild card works, because it's confusing and nobody understands what's going on, but they will retain it and learn it better if they're just watching you do what you normally do. So we've ranged our partnerships from as simple as we'll amplify your content and support across the NFL accounts to we can fully partner together and co-create.
Any other questions? We got a couple more minutes. No questions? I'll come up with one. Not anything too challenging. So you guys have spent a year thinking about this event. You have so much going on. Is there a moment that you guys are most excited for, or something? Hopefully it's not when it's all over, but something that maybe we aren't all thinking about, but something that you're looking forward to. You want to start, Paul?
Sure. I don't know, this might be my 5th or 6th draft on site. For me, I'm fortunate enough to be down in the draft theater, right next to the stage where, I work with NFL Films to capture some high-speed footage that we can utilize in future promotion for draft and really sort of evergreen content. So if a player becomes a star 10 years from now, we can always look back to night one they became a professional and have some of these beauty shots. But for me, the most exciting part of draft is just the excitement and the buzz. We've been going city to city, obviously, and just the energy and the excitement and fans traveling from all across the country for this one event where it's basically the commissioner reading names. I find it to be just incredible. It's a game. It's almost a Super Bowl atmosphere outdoors. It's like almost a party in a way. So for me, it's always the beginning, and everyone's so excited, and the anticipation is at its peak. So there's something about that energy that really gets me amped up every year.
To that point on the energy, I think for me it's the moms. Specifically on the red carpet, the players that bring their moms, it's like their date, and they get to get all dressed up, and they're excited because their life is changing too, and they're also getting to watch their son's dreams be realized, and I think that's a really special moment. I think last year we had one mom who started crying on the carpet because we had photos of her son as a kid on the set, and she was like, I can't believe that's my baby, and he's right here, and he's about to be drafted to the NFL. So for me, it's the moms. Cam?
Yeah, I mean, similarly, I think all the talk about energy, like when I've been here for since last Friday, and I've seen a lot of fans, kind of showing this anticipation and excitement, like for that moment when they can't actually kind of go out into that space. So to actually see them finally, get the doors kind of opened up and allowed to kind of roam that space, I'm really looking forward to it. Yeah, I think it'll be pretty exciting.
Really special moment when the doors are open and everyone gets to experience all the hard work that you guys have put into this week. Obviously, years of planning, and just really kudos to you and your teams for a very impressive draft week. I'm very excited to see it come to life. If there are no further questions, let's just give them a round of applause.